लल्लू को पूछ ले यार, लल्लू को गाड़ी बनने का 2 मिनट का काम है। हाँ, लल्लू।
घेतली मला लालवाली खाली बाकीच्या गोळ्या नाही भेटले काय हो बाई हो हेच बघू केला बाई हो बाबा हो बंधू हो चंदू हो
सर
Hello, Dr. Vaidya.
Sir, good morning.
Good morning. Shall we start?
Just wait, sir. I will ask to Jende, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
morning, sir. Hello. Sir, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Sir, we'll wait for another 5 minutes to join. Randy, sir, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How many people? 134. Yes, sir. इधर अच्छा Good morning, everyone. All the participants are requested to please join with your name registered. Otherwise, it is very difficult then for the identifying the people for issuing the certificates. So please join with the names.
हॅलो हॅलो
Good morning, sir.
सर नमस्कार मी प्रशांत वासनिक
हा हाऊ आर यू डॉक्टर हाऊ आर यू डॉक्टर वासने
सर आई एम फाइन सर
व्हेरी गुड
बिकॉज ऑफ
आफ्टर लॉंग टाइम
Hello, sir. Namaskar. Kokore sir. Namaskar.
कुठपर्यंत आवाज येत नाही
सर नमस्कार सर.
नमस्कार
सर नमस्कार. आता येतोय सर आवाज.
येतोय का हा
नमस्कार सर.
नमस्कार नमस्कार कशा आहात बाबा बऱ्याच दिवसानंतर
चांगलं सुरक्षित आहे सर. चांगलं थँक्यू.
सुरक्षित आहे ना चांगलं आहे गुड
हो सर सर थँक्यू. सर भोगलेचं समजलं असेल ना.
I told you. Stories. Come on. Go and do stories. Your story. Thank you. Unmute. Mute your- unmute your-
Dr. Jende, we will start.
So we are waiting for our honorable Vice Chancellor. He will join and we'll start. Let this run sang Dr. Bhukna phone karamna.
क्लिक केलं की आणि
Okay. So Dr. Ingole, I think our vice chancellor has come. We can start now.
Okay. Good morning, all the dignitaries and the participants. So we'll start on for this training program analysis. Also,
Problem solved झालं.
Dr. Ingole, I'm not audible. You are not audible. Dr. Ingole, you were not audible. Anyway, let us start the program. And, let me welcome all the dignitaries for this particular national e-training on chemical residues. This particular program has been arranged for 3 days, starting from today, 4th up to 6th of May, and a lot of eminent speakers have been invited to deliver the talk about the chemical residue analysis in the food stuffs as well as the ready to food feed items. Now, basically, we are in the midst of the pandemic, as you all know, and the second wave is already in progress. And I hope that all are taking due precautions. I pray for the safety of everybody. Yes, Dr. Ingole, your connectivity is little bit problematic. I already started welcoming the people. Yeah, your connectivity is problematic. I already started welcoming the people. So let me complete that and then you take over.
ठीक है sir, you continue sir.
Right. So I hope at least I am audible. Hopefully, yes.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Yes sir.
So I was just wondering that, the situations in and around Mumbai and many parts of the country also are very bad. So I just pray to the Almighty that let everybody be happy and you all should, be comfortable. I also expect that you all will take due precautions and will stick to the COVID-19 preventive behavior. Now, first of all, let me welcome the chief patrons, Dr. R.C. Agarwal, VP Education and National Director in GP ICR New Delhi, who has been a constant source for organizing such programs. The second chief patron is our own beloved Colonel Dr. Professor A.M. Palkar, Honorable Vice Chancellor MAFSU, who has been pioneer in the field of analysis work at the Veterinary Public Health Department at Mumbai Veterinary College, and now he has risen to the chair of Honorable Vice Chancellor. So with his guidance, Dr. Jhende and his team is organizing this particular program. Then let me also welcome Dr. Prabhat Kumar, the patron, National Coordinator, NAHEP, CAAST, ICAR. And then let me all welcome our own university authorities who have been the source of inspiration and guidance for all of us to undertake different kinds of programs. Dr. A.P. Somkuar, the Dean and DI Faculty of Veterinary Science, MAPSU, Nagpur. Then Dr. N.V. Kurkure, the Director of Research, who is actually coordinating all the research activities of the university, including the project at Mumbai Veterinary College. Dr. V.D. Aher, who is the Director of Extension Education, and Dr. G. Vasnik, Dean of the Faculty of Dairy Technology. Although all are our people, let me all welcome Dr. Jhende and his team, organizing secretaries, co-organizing secretaries, program coordinators, and program co-coordinators for organizing this particular program. Now, as we all know, chemical residue analysis is an important And nowadays, the incidences are very high, and we are almost eating everything having some contamination of chemical or the other. And hence, this particular topic of chemical residue analysis, though it's going on for years together, the importance of it continue in long time. We have renowned speakers for all these 3 days, and let me welcome all of them: Dr. Kaushik from Pune, Dr. Ajit Datar from Mumbai, Dr. Amitabh Pandey from Chennai, Dr. Anup Krishnan from Kochi, Kerala. Then we have Mr. Kumaran from Bangalore, Mr. Sachin Salunke from Mumbai. And now let me welcome our Honorable Founder, Vice Chancellor of MAPSU, Dr. A.T. Sherikar, who would be working as a chairman for a technical session. I can see many faces, Dr. Vaskar and a lot of people. I welcome one and all for this particular 3 days program on chemical residue analysis. I hope the deliberations will be very, very useful. I was already observing the number of participants has crossed 150. So there is a good response, and I hope long and good success for this particular program. Thank you very much. Over to Dr. Ingole, please.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Dr. R.J. Zhende, who is the PI of this NAHEPcast MAFSU project, to talk about this training program.
Thank you, Dr. Ingole, and good morning, everyone. Respected Colonel Dr. Paturka sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor MAPSU, Dr. A.T. Sherikar sir, Honorable Founder Vice Chancellor MAPSU, all the other dignitaries and authorities of the universities, all the associate deans of the constituent colleges of MAPSU, the research team of NAHEPcast MAPSU, participants, other fellow colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. So, as you know that today we have gathered here virtually for the inaugural function of the National Year Training Program on Chemical Residue Analysis, organized under the NHEP-cast MAPSU project, entitled Center of Excellence for the Advanced Research on Animal Food Safety. In today's scenario, the chemical residue in the food, these are very important food safety issues, both in the terms of consumer concern and the food trade. So as you know that in the year 1999, there was Indian consignments of the meat and meat product. They are rejected on the basis of the chemical residues like antibiotics, pesticides, heavy metals, and hormone residues. But at that time, there was no single laboratories in veterinary profession involved in residue analysis. So that time, our stalwarts, Dr. A.T. Sherikar sir and Dr. Paturka sir has taken lead, and under NATP project in 1999. So they have developed this NATP project for the monitoring the residue analysis in the meat, milk, egg, and fish, which are mainly exported from our country. So this is a pioneer work they have done, and with this continuation, but not more than some of the few laboratories they have established in the food of the animal origin, but not much laboratories are there. That is why most of the MRLs and the standards which are available in our country, so they are not from the Indian context. So whatever the residue standards or the MRLs which are observing, they are mainly of Codex Elementaris, EEC, then USFDA, so that they are mainly following. The purpose of this establishing the center, our Honorable Vice Chancellor Dr. Patrick has taken lead to get this project at our university. At least we can contribute to the national cause, and we can develop an extensive data under this project. We can give it to the National Legislative Agency for developing our Indian own standards. So with this purpose, we have just organized this training program so that we can make aware the people from the different veterinary universities and the people from the various diagnostic laboratories. They can start their own work on the residue analysis, mainly the antibiotic, pesticides, heavy metals, and the hormonal residues in meat and milk. Because the presence of these residues in the animal origin food mainly causes the socioeconomic challenges in the international trade in animal and animal products. And the major public health significance, you know that the antibiotic residues, they may cause the development of antimicrobial drug resistance, hypersensitivity reactions, carcinogenicity, mutagenicity, disruption of the normal intestinal flora. So these are the health effects which are mainly causes in the consumers, those who are consuming this food product containing the chemical residues for a longer period of the time. So that is why the prudent or the judicious use of this antibiotics or the pesticides in the agriculture out in the animals, that will definitely helps in to reduce these levels of these antibiotics and pesticide residues in animal origin food products. So also we have to have also the standardize our good animal husbandry practices, so that we can use some of the alternatives to the antibiotics, pesticides, so that we can reduce their levels. So with this intention, we have taken this training program to make aware the people from the various universities, so that they can take because at one point doing this all research, it doesn't serve the problem. So we have to have this global, and also that across the country we have to do this research project at various universities and research institutes. So we have invited, as you know, that talented and experienced and eminent scientists and experts from this area, wherein this they are working since 10 to 15 years and doing hands-on residue analysis day to day. So I hope this training program will definitely will help the participant to follow some of the guidelines which may be explained by our distinguished speakers in their day-to-day life. So thank you so much for all the participants and the dignitaries in this training program. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jende. Now I welcome our guest of honor, Dr. N.V. Kurkure, who is Director of Research, MAFSU, to give his address the audience.
Yes. Kurkure sir, I think please unmute yourselves.
Good morning, all.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yeah, actually, I was not able to unmute because the controls were with you probably. Okay, fine, doesn't matter. Good morning, all. Respected Colonel Dr. Professor A.M. Paturkar sir, Vice Chancellor MAFSU Nagpur, and who is President of the this inaugural session for this training. Respected Cherikar sir, the founder Vice Chancellor of our university, patron of these trainings, and chief patrons and patrons of this training, dean of the various faculties of the university, and associate deans of the constituent colleges attending this program, associate dean of the organizing college, Dr. Ranade sir, all the team of the Naheb cast. Good morning, and I wish you very healthy life ahead in this COVID pandemic. I am witnessing, since this project has been sanctioned, the COVID has also surged and there is a continuous lockdown. But it has never been stopped the functioning of this project. So though there are hurdles, the team of NAHEF, under the guidance of our Honorable Vice Chancellor and Associate Dean, Mumbai Veterinary College, they are overcoming all those hurdles and contributing to the project and doing very good work. This I am witnessing. I take this opportunity to congratulate Dr. Jende that he has continued the legacy which was started by Cherikar sir, continued by Paturkar sir, and now you are taking that torch ahead and moving in the same line. So you deserve congratulations as you are continuing the legacy which they have set. And I expect that you will bring many more laurels to the department and then to the college and ultimately to the university. So I hope that you will bring all those things. I wish you all the best for that. Now coming to the training, this training is for the chemical residue analysis. This is very, very important aspect of the food industry. FSSI is very, very keen over this chemical residue analysis. As Dr. Jenda said that there are not MRL available for the Indian subcontinent or for our conditions. So in this project, the ICR has allotted us to set MRL, at least few MRL, 3 to 5 MRL for the certain meat commodity or the food commodity during this project. Even if we could do that, that will be good contribution to the nation. And as far as this training is concerned, I have seen you have invited very nice speakers in this, and this training is focused more on the heavy metals and pesticide residue analysis, as that is your area of mastery, and you are doing very well since last 15, 20 years that we have seen. So apart from this, I think another chemical which are mycotoxins, that can be also taken into the consideration, because we deal with the foods of animal origin, and when animal origin foods are considered, the mycotoxin is also one of the issue, whether it's a poultry meat or milk, that is also one of the issues. So that also, I think you can take it or think on it in back of your mind, and maybe in future you can work on it. There are hardly any laboratory in India with government setup other than Egmark I know, which works for the human food. But for meat and that they still doesn't work, because they concentrate more on the plant origin food only. So that also we can take up in further and work on it. So the trainees, I also congratulate you that trainee, the participants is now more than 200. It's a good gathering. They are from all corners of the India. So the training which you are organizing or our university is organizing, it is circulating to the each and every corner of the India. That's a commendable job. And the speakers, they are very renowned. So I could see mostly the trainees, they are of younger generation. So whatever they will learn today, it will be in their mind for at least their professional life next 40 years. And by this way, we can contribute to they will also contribute to the nation for reduce the contaminants, chemical contaminants in the food and feed, or like that. So this is good that the choice of the trainees also is good, and they are eager to attend. They are eager to attend this training and learn many more things. So I don't take much time here. I wish all of you to please take care of yourself and your loved ones in this unusual pandemic of Corona. And I thank the organizers for inviting me as a guest of honor in this inaugural session and giving me a chance to interact with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurkure sir. Now I request the chief guest of our program, Dr. A.P. Kosukul sir, who is our DI and Dean Faculty of Veterinary Science, MAFSU, to address the participants.
Good morning. Dr. Ingole, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Paturkar sir, MAFSU Nagpur. Honorable Dr. A.T. Serikar, Founder Vice Chancellor of the MAFSU Nagpur. After a long gap, he is in front of us. So very pleased to see you, sir. Our officers from university, Director Research, Dean Faculty, Dairy Faculty, Dean Fishery Faculty, Associate Deans of Constituent Colleges, Associate Dean Mumbai Veterinary College, Dr. Ranade sir, PI of this training, Dr. Jende. We are having organizing committee members, coordinators, and most important, participants from all corners of this country. In this morning, I hope, as everybody says, that we should be fit and healthy in this COVID pandemic. Please take care of yourself, your nearer and dearer persons. These are the days wherein these wishes they are required. Please follow the COVID guidelines and with these COVID guidelines in the COVID pandemic, whatever routines are there that we have to follow. And as a part of that, this under this NIPE project, Dr. Jende's team is organizing this training, national training program for 3 days. I wish him a very success. As it is said by dear sir that chemicals in the food, they are very much important, and day by day, again they are posing a problem for various aspects, maybe nationally or internationally, maybe to the export trading purpose, or maybe in a national purpose for food consumption to the consumers. These MRLs are to be found out, and as it is said, and we know that our university under the leadership of Dr. Sherikar sir, since 1999, actually the laboratory has been established, and since then various efforts are being taken for setup of the MRLs. Yes, we have set up, and we are again setting up these MRLs, and as objective, we will be setting much more MRLs public in various food and regarding this training program, from the brochure it is observed that yes, eminent speakers are there. These eminent speakers, of course, they are eminent, will give their best, but at the same time, I would like to appeal all the participants which are young that please attend all 3 days training program and see that as you are from all the corner of the country, and this is then a need of the hour that we have to have chemical residue analysis, and this training for this chemical residue analysis, various techniques they are being discussed, and these techniques they will be very much useful for you at your institute, so that the goal which is to be achieved at national level, without your support of the participants from all corners, unless and until they contribute, it is not a responsibility of one center, one university, but it is the national responsibility. And from various corner, various scientists, they have to share the responsibility. Then and then we can go for this upgradation, or we can set up the standards, and thereby we can come to the level of international level. As we know that various food items or meat products, they are not accepted at various international level. Only because of these levels, MRLs and various standards, they are not set up, and we are not meeting the standards as per their need. And therefore, we have to work a lot of on this aspect also. And unless and until it is supported by the participant, by the young scientists, it will not be achieved. So for this training program you are registered, it is definitely in your mind that you are there to help the nation by this way. And I hope after this training program at your center, definitely you will do some work on this, and collectively at national level, we will be having some MROs and some standards for national as well as international level. I hope that this training will be useful to all of you. Thank you, and expect that. I wish good luck for the all participants for taking participation in this training program, and thank you organizer for giving me an opportunity to have some words with you. Once again, I hope that all the participants, they will take care of themselves and their nearer and dearers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Somkur sir. Now I request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, MAFSU, Colonel Dr. Professor A.M. Paturkar sir, to give his presidential address.
Good morning all, and take care of yourself under this COVID pandemic. Honorable Dr. A.T. Sherikar sir, former Vice Chancellor and my philosopher, my guide. DDG ICR, Dr. Agrawal sir, National Coordinator, Dr. Mandal, all the deans and directors of the university, all the associate dean of MAPSU, Dr. Ranade, Dr. Jhende, principal investigator, and his team, all the co-PIs, Dr. Kaushik Banerjee, I am looking at you from here, sir. Good morning to all. Thank you very much for inviting me. This is the National E-Training on Chemical Residue Analysis in Animal Origin Foods. When we started this project under NATP under the guidance of Dr. Honorable A.T. Sherikar sir, at that time there was no infrastructure, there was no technical know-how, there was no trained persons to analyze the animal origin foods. However, Dr. Kaushik has established his laboratory for grapes and Dr. Doifode has established the laboratory for mangoes. We used to visit pharmaceutical companies like Cipla, where Dr. Dixit was there, but he used to analyze only the standard drugs or pesticides on gas chromatography and LCMS or LCMS-MS. At that time, we used to run here and there to find out how these animal origin foods can be analyzed. And a lot of challenges were there for pesticide residues, for antimicrobial residues, for even the heavy metal residues to detect up to the MRL. At that time, there were no Indian standards even. Only the codex and EU standards were there, and we used to follow that. The sampling protocol, we took it from the codex. Okay, how much sample, how much kg of sample to be drawn. Nobody was aware. Even the Export Inspection Council, EPIDA, does not have that much technical know-how or any laboratory to analyze this. So we started analyzing that in 2000, now 2021, we come to this level of referral laboratory on residue analysis in animal origin foods. I used to visit Dr. Kaushik at that time, Dr. Doifode, and we used to take the knowledge from these people, okay, how we can analyze this meat matrix, which has got several residual impurities in the matrix itself. Then we started doing the validation of the process. After validation, we have standardized almost all the pesticides, antimicrobials, and residues individually. Then the problem comes how we can analyze all the pesticide in limited number of extraction process. Because there are hundreds of pesticides, hundreds of drugs, lot of heavy metals. So if you use to analyze or extract the samples separately, then that much time you have to run the samples. Then we visited all the experts like Kaushik, Dr. Doifode and all others. And then we took the part in network project of monitoring of pesticide at national level. In 2006, all other laboratories were analyzing agricultural foods, not the meat or milk or fish or the egg or the poultry. Again, next was the challenge was the PT testing, professional proficiency testing. Nobody used to give us the sample which is unknown. Okay, what is our proficiency? Then we started that under monitoring of pesticide, they have made us compulsion to get the laboratory NABL accredited. In 2007, we started Enable, but there was no expert like that. So we have prepared our own manuals. So we have prepared our own manuals and we have validated our own methods, whatever methods we have for detection of pesticide and antimicrobial residues and heavy metal residue. After that, quick method came in agriculture. Then now we have started validating that method. In one method we can, which is very quick, number one, and you can easily extract the number of pesticides in that. So like that, we have standardized almost all the metrics of animal origin foods, including meat, milk, fish, egg. So number of challenges still there, troubleshootings are there, and definitely all these young people, more than 200 students are participating. I appeal them, if you now you have a platform, at least after 20 years of hard work of number of teams in residual analysis, now you have a platform. Your queries can be solved by so many people who are expertise in that analysis. And now the laboratory like Western Region Referral Laboratory for Meat and Meat Product, this will act as a reference laboratory definitely for country. And I am proud of that. The number of speakers like Dr. Kaushik Banerjee, Dr. Ajit Datar, Mr. Abhinav Pandey, Dr. Anup Krishnan, Mr. Kumaran, and Mr. Sachin Salunke, who are all stalwarts in this. See, all these equipments, LCMS, GCMS, AAS, HPLC, it requires a knowledge of analytical chemistry, which we veterinarians are lacking. This is my frank opinion. I will appeal to all physiology and biochemistry and pharmacology department to extend this knowledge of analytical chemistry to our students, because we know meat better than anybody. We know the animal origin matrix better than anybody, the physiology of animal. So I appeal to physiology, biochemistry and pharmacology students, professors, to give more emphasis on analytical chemistry so that our veterinary students can come in this line of analysis. Otherwise, we have to depend upon MSc analytical chemistry, instrumentation technology, and all these people, because we are not expert in engineering, and there are a number of troubleshooting while analyzing these animal origin foods. So my request to all the professors to give more emphasis on this analytical chemistry to our students. No doubt we are not expert in all, we are basically veterinarians, but we can take help of so many other people. That's why NEP, National Education Policy, has come out with the multi-sectoral collaboration. So veterinarians, medicos, analytical chemists, chemistry background, they can work together and come out with such type of laboratory and analytical techniques which can meet the international standards. So I wish all the best, and really I am very happy to see that this laboratory has come up to this level. Thank you very much for inviting me, and all the best for all the 3 days. And I will try to attend some of the lectures during these 3 days. Thank you very much to all.
Thank you, sir. We will definitely come up with some of the other new techniques in this project. Now I request Dr. VM Vaidya, co-PA of this project, to give a vote of thanks. And after vote of thanks, we'll come up with, we'll start with the session.
Thank you, Ingole sir. Am I audible?
So Vilas.
Yes, yes.
Before that, I would like to submit one thing to the our honorable Vice Chancellor, that he has emphasized about the collaboration with the various laboratories. Definitely, he has pointed out the right things, that the veterinarians and the veterinary profession, there are various laboratories are lacking in the residue analysis. And Dr. Baraj's lab is a pioneer in that subject. And other agriculture laboratories, they are also would like to collaborate with our university to develop this kind of the facilities in various institute and various colleges of our MAPSU. So definitely, sir, Dr. Kaushik is also agreed upon that, and we'll be going for that signing MOU with NRC grade with the MAPSU. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. So now it's my privilege to propose the vote of thanks on behalf of Maharashtra Animal and Fishery Sciences University, Nagpur, and Mumbai Veterinary College, Mumbai. Heart vote of thanks to all the dignitaries present over here in this gathering, and speakers and participants for joining us here today on the occasion of National E-Training on Chemical Residue Analysis from today till 6th May 2021. First and foremost, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the President of today's function, respected Colonel Professor Dr. M. Patrukar sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor MAPSU, for sparing the valuable time in spite of his busy schedule and even the presidential speech. His constant support, guidance, mentorship, and encouragement is always inspirational to us. Thank you very much, sir, for the presence. Now I express my heartfelt thanks to the founder and former Vice Chancellor of our MAPSU University, respected Dr. A.T. Serikar sir, in this program. His valuable guidance and consistent suggestions, sharing of knowledge, always remain a source of inspiration to us. Thank you very much, sir. I am thankful to the NAHEP ICR for the funding of this project. Now, I also express my heartfelt thanks to the chief guest of today's function, respected Dr. A.P. Somkar sir, Director of Instructions and Dean, for his valuable guidance and information about this training program, always encouragement and support. Thanks a lot, sir. We are very much grateful to today's guest of honor, respected Dr. N.V. Kurkure sir, Director of Research MAPSU, for delivering excellent speech and information about the training. Thank you very much, sir. We are very much grateful to respected Dr. V.D. Aher sir, Director of Extension Education, and respected Dr. P.G. Vasnik sir, Dean, Faculty of Dairy Technology, MAPSU, for their constant inspirations, moral support, encouragement, and help. Thank you very much, sir, both of you. I am also thankful to the Associate Deans of the constituent colleges of MAPSU for their always support, help, and guidance to us. Thank you, all of you. I express my heartfelt thanks to the speakers, today's speakers, Dr. Kaushik Banerjee sir and Dr. Ajit Datar sir, and all the speakers for the day for accepting our invitations in a very short period of time and to enlighten the participants. I would like to thank our technical session committee chairman, respected Dr. A.T. Serikar sir, and co-chairman Dr. V.S. Vaskar sir, Professor, Department of Veterinary Public Health, KNP CVS Shirwad, for their valuable time for conducting the smooth conducting the session. I would like to thank our beloved Associate Dean, Project Implementing Officer, and Course Director, Dr. A.S. Ranade sir, for his constant support, help, and encouragement for organizing such event. Thank you very much, sir. I also extend my thanks to the Course Director and Principal Investigator, Dr. R.J. Jhende sir, then Organizing Secretary, Dr. S.D. Ingole sir, Dr. M.P. Sawane sir, Nodal Officer, then all co-organizing secretaries, all co-PIs and NIHEP project staff for their efforts for organizing such wonderful event. I extend my thanks to all the participants from across the different parts of the country and for participating in this training program. Last but not least, I appreciate the efforts taken by our NIHEP team and all staff members, professors and students of our University MAPSU. I thank all of them for making this event a grand success. I thank one and all.
Thank you, Dr. Vaidya. So without taking any break, now we'll start with our training session, and I request Dr. A.T. Sherikar, Founder Vice Chancellor MAPSU, to act as a chairman for this session, and Dr. V.S. Vaskar, Professor KNP Shirwar, to act as co-chairman for this session. I'm handing over this to the chairman and co-chairman, Dr. A.T. Sherikar sir and Dr. V.S. Vaskar sir.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Hello?
Sir, yes, sir, yes, sir.
Yes, yes.
At the outset, I thank the organizers for having invited me to chair this session, and it is my pleasure to be with you all. This is a big event. In fact, the organizers have organized, and in such a bad situation, a commendable job they have done. As regards to the topic, pesticides are residues in the foods. Whether they are antibiotic residues, they are pesticide residues, or heavy metal, or trace elements, or hormonal residues. As Dr. Paturkar told and Dr. Jhende also narrated, we have been working on this issue since 1977, actually. And those days, there were no equipment, or even there were simply we were working on chemical methods. When Dr. Rajmani, he is retired as a regional general manager of New India Assurance Company. He had worked on chemical analysis of heavy metals. Chemical analysis of heavy metals. Even that time, to the best of my knowledge, even AS was also not introduced. Then we used to organize, we used to have and fabricate our own the small equipment, glass equipment, and work in the laboratory. This was in 77. Later on, when Dr. Karade, he worked on heavy metals, I suppose, I don't remember now exactly. And then Chavan, when Dr. Chavan, he worked on mercury analysis from mercury from fish. There was actually a report we had received that a lot of fish were dying in the Arabian Sea. And practically they were floating near Thane Creek and Kalyan Creeks. So a few samples were brought in our department, and actually the government had given that assignment to the Department of Animal Husbandry. And through Animal Husbandry Department that came to us. We were absolutely new to all these things. And then Dr. Chavan, he was our postgraduate student, Dr. Khoth was there as professor and head of the department, and Dr. Ajinkya. We all together, I was just assistant professor, yes, assistant professor. We sat together, and a mercury analyzer, or Dr. Ajinkya was a very expert in instrumentation, and really knowledgeable person. He had worked at Nagpur also and Mumbai, different places in the country. So he sometimes he had, when he was in US, he was knowing some technology in the mercury analysis. So we had developed a small box, and that was a name with the help of some fabricator and all. The details have been given in the thesis. I don't remember now. And started working. So ultimately we could succeed, and we could find the excess mercury in the fish which were dying in the Arabian Sea, which were, of course, as Dr. Paturkar said, we did not have our own standards. So European standards we were following, and there were many fish were containing more than mercury more than permissible limit. Likewise, again, we were working on this antibiotic residues. Antibiotic residues, then these all were chemical technology or the microbiological technology. I tell you, when Dr. Teltubre was assigned to work on antibiotic residue, and myself and my missus, we have gone to Sweden for a conference. And we were searching for the best technology and all. There was a big exhibition, it was organized there. And one party, one big company, they had developed some technology, this antibiotic residue based on Bacillus thermophilus disc assay technique. And so we were so happy, I tell you, throughout one day we were after that, those representative, and we were asking them for the samples and some pamphlets and all. And standard samples of Bacillus thermophilus spores. And in 79, 89, that was, the cost was more than, it was running more than lakhs. Just say some few spores of Bacillus. So that was not possible for us. So anyhow, we managed to get some complementary spores, and we developed those spores in our laboratory. The cultivated those spores into the vegetative form, and that was useful. It was a wonderful work. Likewise, many works we have done in between, and one Dr. Karare, he had worked on heavy metals, again, for particularly lead, I suppose. At that time, we used, that was in 19, somewhere near about that period only, with the help of Water Pollution Department in Mumbai. They had AAS, Atomic Absorption Spectrophotometry, and the Dr. Karare work. So this lot of data we generated, and ultimately in say 94, 95 or something, a project was assigned to us. It is traces standardization of techniques for microbiology as well as heavy metals and trace elements from meat, milk, and fish. And that project was under NATP. That was as the Bombay Veterinary College, the lead center, and IVRI, NDRI, Kernel, then Tanuas, and another organization, I don't remember now, that as a co-center. So this is the history, and that was, then it was a big project under NATP, and we could do some work. Then later on, the government of India sanctioned under World Bank. These were World Bank projects. In 2000, they sanctioned this NATP project, that establishment of center laboratory that came, and then of course on we continued to work, and even Dr. Paturkar and this Jende, they have worked on, and even Dr. Vaskar also, they have, for their doctoral studies and post-graduation studies, they have worked on this residue subject. So a lot of work has been done and publications have been made. So this was probably out of context. I took a lot of time in the beginning itself because it is just a small session and I have to tell. So these are old memories, I tell you. So when Dr. Jende asked me yesterday, he telephoned me, sir, you have to chair one session, but I'm just sitting at home and I have no source to just revise my knowledge and all. Anyway, he forced me. So I accepted the invitation. So it is a good work and it is internationally acknowledged. Whatever the work has been done by Mumbai Veterinary College and MAPSU, and we are proud of that. As a result, now under the leadership of Dr. Paturkar, Jende, Dr. Granade, we have got the Center of Excellence. I am so happy. It was actually a dream. At least in our MAPSU, we should have one Center of Excellence. And this is the result of continuous work of, say, 20, 30 years work, 77, I'm telling you. All these records are documented records, published records. So I congratulate in the beginning itself all the workers who have contributed to this Center of Excellence out of, and as a part of this, I suppose, the training program, today we have gathered and this a small seminar workshop has been organized. Anyway, without going much into the details, I just start this session and request the first session, Dr. Kaushik Banerjee. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And his topic is, I don't have the topic here in front of me.
I will do the honors, sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah, please continue.
Yeah, good morning to everyone all. It's thank you very much, Shirita sir, our guide, philosopher, mentor, and we can say the Sarve Sarva behind this Department of Veterinary Public Health, establishing all his efforts, what he has been took us to down the memory lane, whatever the effort that we have witnessed under his able guidance and leadership, the department has progressed. Now I have the honor to introduce today. We have two speakers today, Dr. Kaushik Banerjee followed by Dr. Ajit Datta. First, we will start with Dr. Kaushik Banerjee, who is now working as a principal scientist at ICR National Research Center on Grapes, which is located in Pune. As has been rightly pointed out by our beloved Vice Chancellor, Dr. Paturkar sir, that in the initial days of establishing this particular laboratory, we took the very much help from Dr. Banerjee. He is instrumental in development of efficient residue analysis methods for pesticides and other food contaminants, and as well as the risk assessment of excess of crop specific MRNs. As it was a very comparatively a new science to us, so he was very instrumental in that, in establishing these MRLs. Particularly, he is instrumental in establishing the country-specific MRLs for India under the aegis of Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. Dr. Banerjee is the fellow of UK's Royal Society of Chemistry, and as well as our own country's prestigious National Academy of Agricultural Sciences. Dr. Kaushik Banerjee will be talking on importance of analysis of pesticide residues in animal origin food and their global trends. So I will not come in between Dr. Kaushik. I invite Dr. Kaushik to please. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Shankar, and of course, the invitation. So let me just try to share my screen.
Okay, hello.
Yeah, I hope my screen is visible.
Yes.
Yeah. So, as rightly pointed out, that in this talk, basically, I'm going to present certain aspects of pesticide residue analysis in animal origin food products. In fact, I never knew that in our lab we already done so much on animal origin products, because although our institute is on grapes, but for so many, we became the reference lab of FSSAI also for pesticide residue and microorganisms. Dr. Patulkar and I worked on several occasions in various FSSAI committees, and so please.
Mute all. Accept. But this is unbelievable. Yes.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah.
So,
this is the structure of my today's talk. I would like to start with a certain basic concept of residue analysis, how the residue analysis methods evolved. Then I will present the global scenario to justify the topic of today's talk. What are the methods which are usually used for animal origin products in various countries? Then certain advanced techniques, automation, which people are using for analysis of food products, recent publications from some leading labs, and a glimpse of method validation requirements, because there is a separate talk on that. And finally, I would like to conclude. So as you all know that, just a minute. Yeah, global food trade that is always having an increasing trend all over the world. Whatever sizing of economy or whatever is happening, food trade is always a rising situation. We are improving our export. We are also importing a lot. So there is a flow of material from one country to another, one state to another. And when we do that, whatever you test for pesticide residues in any commodity, basically this is highly regulated subject. Pesticide analysis always done see whether a food product is complying with the regulation or not. Now, when you think of regulation at national level, in India, the regulation is set by our Food Safety Standards Authority. And when you want to think of regulating certain things for export purpose, at first we have our national authorities like APIDA, Export Inspection Council, various commodity boards, which actually does a lot of inspection of our laboratories and see that whether they are capable of testing a food for export compliance. And any commodity, when it is tested for export compliance, basically any residue detected, that has to be compared with the maximum residue limit or maximum limit of that particular country. So here there are two concepts. One is maximum residue limit, which is basically is developed based on risk assessment studies. And when risk assessment based residue limit is not available, we call it as maximum level or maximum limit. So you can see that various countries have their own regulations. So as an exporter, India has to comply with that. Similarly, if we import anything, that import commodity has to comply with the regulation of our FSSAI. Now, what food business operators facing that there are so much variation in the regulations, various different types of MRLs for the same pesticide, country to country MRLs are different, and that's a big challenge. And so question sometimes is asked that why food safety concerns are different, why MRL in one country is higher and another country is lower. So some idea is that rate of degradation of a pesticide may vary with a crop or animal body. Then there are differences in how food is grown, prepared, and consumed across different countries. I think still some Okay. So although there are codex standards which are acceptable, but since because of our difference in food habit, etc., there are variations in risk incidence. So what happened, although we are signatory to codex, countries are having eligibility to have their own standards. So that is the reason we have to comply with the standard. And harmonization, although at every codex meeting, every international meeting, people talks about harmonization of standards, but that is not easy. Suren Tambe, please yourself. Suren Tambe. Lot of noise. So, hello.
It seems there is a lot of noise here.
Yeah, thank you. So when you think of pesticide residue analysis, first question comes that which chemicals to monitor. Normally what happens so that if you have a regulatory system, that if you know that cultivation of a crop or raising of animal is involving only particular regulated pesticides, then it is very easy that you can have a small list of chemical to be monitored. But what happens in most cases, you have a problem because pesticides in a food commodity may also appear from various indirect sources. So that's the reason monitoring list is always a big list. So this is the general scenario. In the European Union, 450 plus pesticides are regulated. That means for any commodity, you can see that so many MRLs are there. Now, if you think of the availability of pesticide across the globe, maybe 600 to 700 chemicals are available in various markets. So these food business operators, they often expect that if all these chemicals are tested, then probably you can take a considered decision that whether the material is suitable for every market or a particular market, so that price realization can be improved. So this is a concept in Europe. What they do, that they have a very nice regulatory system where a lot of documentation happens, and they have a coordinated multi-annual residue control program. So you can see that 171 compounds. This has been listed in this EU 2017/660, and these 171 compound list, what they say that they have decided based on maybe last 15-20 years of monitoring study. So they know that these are the chemicals which are usually detected in various commodities, whether that is produced in their own country or it is imported, it is detected in any import material. So you can see that the compounds which are in red font, they are basically the compounds which are usually detected in Indian commodities. So as we can expect that most of the compounds are organophosphates, carbamates, and regular use chemicals. We all know these names. Certain synthetic pyroxates are there, and these some of the chemicals like monochrotophos, they always create a lot of trade issue because these are not liked by advanced countries.
ಹೇಮಂತ ಇದೊಂದು ಫಿಗರ್ ಹತ್ರ ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಡಿ ಇದನ್ನ ತಗೊಂಡಾಗೆ.
Mr. Sud, you can please mute yourself. So residue analysis for food safety compliance, there are three possibilities. One is a situation you can think of that a laboratory has a reference standard and you are asked to analyze that particular compound. So that we can say that this is a reliable target oriented screening. So you have been asked to estimate a particular compound. So you have a reference standard, you construct a calibration, you inject into the instrument, you get its detention time, you get its mass parameters, and then it's very straightforward sort of approach. It's possible that you do not have a reference standard in your laboratory, but still your methodology has its parameters. So in that situation, for example, your GC program or LC program you have included that compound and its mass parameter is also present. It will happen that if that particular pesticide is present in that sample, it will be detected. Your instrument will give a peak or signal. But problem is that in that case, since if you do not have its reference standard in your laboratory, you will not be able to quantify it. So in that situation, we can say that we can screen it, screen a suspected analyte, and only can talk about presence or absence. You cannot mention it concentration. Maybe it's possible to give some indication of what could be the concentration, whether it is above MRL or below MRL. And third situation is screening for totally unknown, what we usually do for studies like where metabolism is studied, metabolites are identified, or sometimes import material which does not have any background history, or we do not have any understanding of the farmers' practice in those countries. So in that situation, it may be required to test everything which is possible. So in that situation, high resolution mass spectrometry based methods are gaining lot of significance for that type of studies. Now, to me, all the residue analysis methods, whether it is in plant products or animal products, there are two phases. One is a phase prior to 2003, another is post 2003. So residue analysis methods before 2003 mostly used to have certain very general purpose techniques. They did not have much selectivity. Those days, most of the analysis used to involve GC with electron capture detector and HPLC with UV or diode array detector. So you know that electron capture detector or diode array detector, although they are quite sensitive, but problem is that they are very general purpose in nature. Anything having an electron capturing group is detected by a GC ECD. Similarly, UV detector can detect most of the organic compounds having some sort of unsaturation. So that was the main problem, that lack of selectivity was an issue. And methodologies which used to be available, those are class specific. For example, there was method for organochlorine compounds, methods for organophosphates, methods for carbamates or synthetic pyretroids. So usually we used to talk about class specific methods. If you check the FSSA manual in a website, that old methods which are there, still these methods are mentioned. They are good, but the problem is that they are very, very selective to a particular class. So that's the reason GC with flame photometric detector is recommended for organophosphorus compounds, which produces a signal in response to FPD. So in such situation, ECD or UV detection, you are totally dependent on retention time. That is the only parameter based on which you can match a compound and match a signal and mention its presence or absence. So you do not have any additional property or additional information to support your detection. So as I say, a very general purpose detection system. So that was the reason that a lot of noise or lot of signals we used to find in our any chromatogram. So here, for example, we wanted to test dimethoate, but there are so many signals, and if we match this particular signal with reference standard of dimethoate, now in modern concept of analytical chemistry, whether it is a signal or it's a part of the noise. So that's a big question. So then it's you know that integration of such peak is not easy. So these are the problems, and so that is the reason to compromise or to complement this situation rather. The method sample preparation methods used to be very, very exhaustive because we wanted to remove all the interfering substances, and so that the final solution that should be injected into GC or HPLC should be as clean as possible. So sample steps used to include multiple cleanup process like liquid partitioning, column chromatography, solid phase extraction. We can give some example here. So for example, if you look at the Journal of AOSC 1963 published this method, Mills method, which is a very well-known method. Most of us in young age, we used this method in our laboratory. So you can see that there are so many steps, and it's not a very good experience when you do a liquid extraction with a separating funnel. It also produces a lot of fume. The laboratory becomes contaminated. You inhale a lot of solvent, and you do not have much option except using certain specific solvent, which is immiscible with water, and often it produces emulsion. So a lot of issues. FDA, in 1976, Dr. Luke from US FDA, he published, Dr. Mohit Jain. Mohit Jain, please mute yourself. FDA came out with an official method in US. Luke, he was a scientist in US FDA and with the Center for Food Safety and Applied Nutrition. And this is the method which was proposed, and they used a GCMS. Those days, a triple quad was not available. So GCMS with selected ion monitoring. And then here also you can see that acetone extraction, SP and various steps. So why these methods are no longer practiced in our laboratories, any part of the world rather? Because there are too many steps. We hate that. We have very limited time. We want to do a lot of analysis in a single day. And we know that any analytical chemist will appreciate that if there are more number of steps, there will be more amount of error. So this error will contribute to lab-to-lab variations. Inconsistency in recoveries, especially at low, because you lose a lot of residue, a lot of recovery. Low throughput, if you have such a long or such a lengthy kind of sample preparation procedure, how many sample you can analyze in a day? 5 or 6 at the most by a single person. So low throughput is always a big problem. And another issue is that for partitioning, mostly people are dependent on dichloromethane, so which is a chlorinated solvent. There are environmental concerns. There are safety concerns. These days, the dichloromethane, if you use in any method, and if you want to submit that method in any journal, especially analytical chemistry journal, the reviewer will raise lot of queries that why you used dichloromethane for this, because it has a lot of negative implications. False detection issues are there because of general purpose nature of these detectors, limited selectivity, lack of confirmation in non-MS instrumentation, which I already mentioned. So people started working on various other techniques, and you know that in the year 2003, the residue analysis sector was revolutionized because of introduction of the Quechers method. You all know about it. I need not elaborate much this. So this has reduced the sample size, reduced the reagent. It excluded chlorinated solvents, and so it is more user-friendly, more environmental friendly. So these are the three general approaches of Quechers method. Original method was published in 2003. Then there is a buffered technique which eventually became the AOSC official method in 2007. And this is a slightly different approach in the composition of the buffer. So these are very much, these buffers are basically required to adjust the pH of matrix. So when people talk about Quechers, they probably feel that this method should be applicable to almost every commodity. But every quality has a different pH, and pH may not be favorable for particular compound. A compound may degrade because of alkalinity or high acidity. So under that situation, adjustment of pH is important. So in the first original version, there was no buffer, but 2005 onwards, whichever Quacher's method came up, here you can see that sodium acetate was used. Here citrate buffer was used. Basically, it may not be necessary for all commodities, but if you use it, then probably it takes care of a general purpose method. So you all know that basically we do a sample homogenization, then partitioning with acetonitrile by adding magnesium sulfate and sodium chloride. And the biggest advantage is that you can just pipette out from the upper layer and inject into the instrument. So here we also came out in 2006 in our lab this ethyl acetate based method, which also is now a method what all laboratories for export control they are using in case of fruits and vegetables. So you can see here that we basically get a very clear solvent layer. So this layer, some aliquot is taken, then this aliquot is subjected to a dispersive solid phase extraction, and then it is injected into the instrument. Problem is that Quacher's method is not a solution of everything. Quacher's method has simplified the sample preparation approach. But you know that when you do oversimplification of anything, they also end up into some trouble. So for example, here basic extract is not very clean because you have not done much cleanup. So what happens so that when you inject the Quacher extract into GCD or HPLC UV, then you get any additional signals. So that is the reason Quacher's is heavily dependent on instrumentation. Either it is a GCMS or it is an LCMS. Fortunately, what happens that in 2003, 2004, that is the period, many of you would remember that this is the period when triple quadruple instruments also came into the market. So Quacher's method and triple quad, they became a complementary combination. So Quacher's, whatever dirty extract it was producing, that problem creating compounds, they were taken care of because of highly selective MSMS transition that was used either on a GCMS platform or in an LCMS platform. So that was basically a big advantage of this complementarity of sample preparation with the instrumentation technique. So now, whatever methods I said, these are all general purpose methods. These can also be used for plant origin products, for animal origin products. And now I did some literature search and talked to some of my colleagues in various labs and came out with some information about overview of the current methods for animal origin products. So first I would like to present one method which United States Department of Agriculture, USDA Food Safety Service, Office of Public Health Science. So this is the method which is currently running, and here you can see that this method uses GCMSMS and LCMSMS. But the problem is that this method involves so many steps. I will show you in the next slide. So here you can see that they have mentioned that this has its applicability on bovine, caprine, equine, ovine, on so many type of animal origin products. So it's a very general purpose method. So, so basically this method is used for monitoring of meat sample, and although it's a sample preparation method is quite lengthy, but this is their official method still. So you can see that so many from it started from A ends into O. So many steps in extraction itself. Then finally they do LCMSMS analysis. I remember that some years back, some of our scientists, they visited California Department of Agriculture for a residue analysis training. They also presented very similar approaches. Problem is that once a method becomes a government authorized method, then they find difficulty to change that. So now what happens, this USDA, they're serious trying to replace this too complicated method by a simpler approach, and using certain standard method performance criteria to use those simplified methods. So here is a method from Brazil, which is a method largely used in Latin America. And you can see that this method, although it was mainly used, mainly developed for beta-lactam and tetracycline antibiotics, so beta-lactam and tetracycline antibiotics, but approach is very similar to quenchers. So basically, they take sample and extract by acetonitrile and water 4:1 combination. Then there is a hexane partitioning. So when you do hexane partitioning, basically, since this method was developed for beta-lactam and tetracycline antibiotics, so you can imagine that they wanted to develop the method for LCMS. So in LCMS, we don't like to inject hexane. So hexane partitioning means you basically partition the extract, then throw that hexane extract. So hexane removes a lot of fatty co-extractives. So after that, after the fat material is removed by hexane, the residual co-extractives are removed by C18. We add it as a dispersive solid phase extraction reagent. So this method was published in 2012, and in the same year, from USDA, Stephen Leote and his group, they also published a very similar method. So the earlier method was for beta-lactam and tetracyclines, and they tried this method for veterinary drugs. 62 veterinary drugs they tried, and they got a quite promising result. So then they tried the same method for pesticide residue analysis also. And as you understand that, why not? If these veterinary drugs are more complicated, and acetonitrile water extraction should definitely work for pesticide analysis also. So basically what is done, 2 gram sample is extracted with acetonitrile water 4:1. Then you shake with hexane. So if you keep that centrifuge tube standing for some time, then hexane part will be separated. There will be a phase separation. So remove that. Then that acetonitrile water, that phase, you can add some C18, 500 milligram C18, and then you basically inject into the instrument, LCMS instrument. So you can see that this method was typically on liquid chromatography tandem mass spectrometry. Because hardly there are much work to be done, but this also faced a lot of controversy because the method was producing a dirty extract, and that caused a frequent contamination of the instrument, especially when you inject such type of extract into LCMS. Its ESI probe will be choked on its curtain plate or whatever those ion source components. They will have a lot of deposition. So frequently you have to take that ion source part out, and you have to clean that on a frequent basis, maybe at the end of every day or every alternate day, depending on the sample load. So a method came out from China, used pressurized liquid extraction, that means accelerated solvent extraction. This was reported for meat, poultry, fish, basically again acetonitrile extraction. They used GPC, gel panimation chromatography, considering the complicated matrix of this type of animal origin products. And then analysis was by GCMS with selected ion monitoring. So in this work, they tried various different type of solvents. So when they thought of compounds, basically chlorinated hydrocarbons, organophosphates, and such type of pesticides, then they thought that why not to try various solvents like acetonitrile, hexane acetone, cyclohexane ethyl acetate. But this research paper mentions that they got the best result with acetonitrile, and then they validated it for 109 pesticide in very wide range of product like meat, poultry, fish, and all the things. And then they problem is that since there's accelerated solvent extraction, so if the laboratory has that unit, then they can use it. Otherwise, that becomes a limitation. But use of a solvent at an elevated temperature, which is the elevated temperature as well as pressure, which is the principle of accelerated solvent extraction or pressurized liquid extraction, that definitely helps in getting a better recovery. Generic method or towards the generic method was reported by you know that he's a very famous residue chemist from Rickelt Institute of Food Safety of Netherlands. And this they got a very high impact research paper in analytical chemistry, and they tried to combine pesticide, mycotoxin, plant toxin. In the inauguration, one gentleman was mentioning about mycotoxin. So you can see that such type of approach probably not only talks about pesticide, it probably combines various other types of toxins also, which coexists in any food product, especially products of animal origin. So again, it's an acetonitrile extraction. It's very simple extraction, and they are adding 1% formic acid because a slight acidity stabilizes the compounds. And then when you do LCMS analysis, then also ionization is improved. So because formic acid contributes some proton during the ionization mechanism. So the method was validated on 136 pesticides, 36 natural toxins, and 86 veterinary drugs. And they said that this method has a immense possibility. And there is a revised publication also came up afterwards. In fact, in my laboratory at NRC Graves, we had a PhD student, and she was very much interested to work on veterinary drugs and pesticides. So we tried a method for milk, which was quite okay, and it got a very good reviewer comment. So what we did, basically, we took one subsample of milk, and the same sample was analyzed for pesticides and veterinary drugs, and final analysis was done involving GCMS and LCMS. So what we did, we took 5 grams of milk. First you add acetonitrile 15 ml, do vortexing, and then it basically deproteinizes the sample or matrix. Then 4 ml material is separated in a vial. So for example, you can designate it as 1. So you have almost 10 ml left. So what you do, you add magnesium sulfate and sodium chloride, centrifuge. So this part is basically quenchers. So when you add magnesium sulfate and sodium chloride, then you get phase separation. So from this, you just take 3 ml acetonitrile supernatant and designate it as 2. Then 2 is combined with 1, and then do some dispersive SPE by adding C18, because since these are animal origin products, they invariably they have a lot of fat. So you have to use some C18 or such type of material to the extract. And obviously here everything is perfect for LCMS analysis, because you have acetonitrile and one is the original extract, another is after. So if you combine them, And this basically takes care of your pesticides as well as veterinary drug component. And second part is that this second extract, you have to do another one. The remaining part of the second extract, again you do dispersive SP with C18, and then you partition with hexane. In the earlier paper, earlier methods, we said that hexane partitioning and then hexane part was removed because that was only used for fat removal. But here this hexane partitioning will be utilized. So when you do partitioning with hexane, then all the chlorinated hydrocarbons, synthetic pyrethoids, some of the organophosphates, they will all go to the hexane phase. You inject into Gcms MS analysis. So this method we published in Food Chemistry, and I think it works very well. We were very happy. And most of the regulated veterinary drugs, whatever standard we had, we tried, and it worked quite well. Then we also worked with fatty fish in our lab. We had a collaboration with the CIFT, Central Institute of Fisheries
Dr.
Technologies in
Taufik,
Cochin. Yes, sir. Yes.
It's 12:30 now. I don't know. 1 hour has been, it was including the inaugural session and all. Another, how much time do you require?
If you feel that I can stop now,
No,
because
no,
I have some more things.
like it is very interesting topic. So it is actually, I am myself, I am revising everything.
So, sir,
Quite
then
interesting.
give me 10 minutes. I will summarize. Okay.
I leave it to organizers. I have no problem. Now, what about Dr. Jende? Dr. Jende, please.
Yes, sir.
Can we
So,
give him
sir,
10?
And
yeah, 10 minutes.
no objection. I would like to
10
listen to
minutes.
Dr. Banerjee. Yeah, I would like to listen to Dr. Banerjee. Please continue, sir. I'm Dr. Datta
Okay.
here.
Okay, Dr. Datta. Yeah, you are the next speaker. I'm sorry to take your time.
No.
Anyway,
It's quite interesting.
anyway,
Only
I
the
will,
time limit
because I am trying to share some of our experiences. So just, it will not take much long. Okay.
Yes, please go ahead.
So,
Another 10 minutes.
thank you. So next component was pesticide residue in fatty fish. This was in collaboration with Central Institute of Fisheries Technologies. You know that fatty fish, why we chose fatty fish? Because we thought that fatty fish is more complicated. And if a method works for fatty fish, then it should work for normal regular fish. So here you can see that this is again basically accidental extraction. And hexane partitioning is important here, and sodium acetate is used for, it's a very similar to 2005 Quacher's version. So basically what we do in India, we are master of doing intelligent combination of various already evolved methods. So then if you see the best practices of various methods, then you come out with a fantastic idea, and that probably helps in solving your own analytical problems. So finally, for cleanup, we did a lot of things, because what happened that lot of signal, a lot of matrix effect was there in case of fatty fish. So then in this case, combination of PSA, fluorosil, C18, and magnesium sulfate. So you can see that quite a big amount of material was used. Normally we use 25 milligram PSA for plant extracts, but here we use 50 milligram because PSA removes the fatty acids, free fatty acids. So final analysis by Gcms chemistry, and I request Dr. Zende that whatever methods that we have till date in our laboratory, once we come out with an MOU sort of thing, if we also initiate an inter-laboratory comparison and then propose to FSSA that this could be our official methods in our country, for because these are already done, so and can be adopted. So then, thank you, sir. So then we also worked on egg, chicken, meat, milk. You can see that This is also entire workflow is established, and this is a very large scale chromatogram. This is the GCMS triple quad chromatogram. More than 300 compounds were analyzed by this method, and it worked quite well. And here what we did some interesting study. Like you know that GCMS, any or GCMS or LCMS, every compound is monitored by two Mrm transitions. So we call it multiple reaction monitoring transition, one precursor, and it produces a fragment ion. So in this case, we had an access to a database where each pesticide had 6 MRMs. So for example, if this is a compound and it had 6 possibilities, so which one to choose? So we tried this and we found that this particular transition, Q1 for example, this had the highest signal to noise ratio. So naturally, this was chosen for quantitative purpose. And the next highest signal intensity was for this particular transition, the second from the upper panel, and this was used for qualitative purpose, confirmatory purpose. Interestingly, if you go to the next slide, so this is for chicken meat. If you go to the next slide for egg matrix, so we collected some egg powder from this our neighboring lab, Venkateshwara hatcheries, and then what we found, you can see that this 250 to 146, which was used for chicken, we got a better signal intensity in case of 361 to 299.8. So we selected this one instead of this one. So these are the certain things which I request all my analytical chemistry colleagues that please consider that don't copy a method from any blindly, don't copy, and also see that if you have a better option. Similarly, same combination of Q1 and Q2 was useful for milk matrix. So in 2020, Stephen Leote came out with a very comprehensive method. You can see that they are saying that, high throughput mega method, for the analysis of pesticide, veterinary drugs, environmental contaminants. And they say it's part 1. So we can expect part 2, part 3 like that. So here you can see that they took 2 gram of meat. They added again 4:1 acetonitrile water, classic approach, which I already mentioned that it started probably from Brazil. Then Stephen Leote also worked on it on veterinary drug. Then it was adopted in pesticide. So then 4:1 acetonitrile water was added, and internal standard is used because when you think of combining so many type of things, and in case of animal origin products, main problem is that this liver, kidney, meat, lean meat, these components have so much difference in their matrix composition. So sometimes if you want to extract liver or kidney, they produce lot of co-extractives, which may cause lot of matrix induced signal suppression or signal enhancement. So sometimes addition of internal standard is very important. So there are 2 ways. One is LC-MS analysis, and for GCMS, some advancement is there. I just would like to give you a little bit more detail. Dr. Datar is there. He can elaborate more on such possibilities because we have used their equipment and tried such type of approaches. So one is ITSP. This is a unique product which we used. We have it in our lab. You can see that normally in any SP, you use a larger quantity of this PSA, 25 milligram per ml. But in this case, we call it mini SP. So in mini SP, basically for a GCMS analysis, combination of PSA, MgSO4, C18, and maybe carbon, entire thing together maybe 45 milligram. So this type of unit is available, and there is a robotics. So basically this can be placed as a thing with the equipment, with the GCMS or LCMS. and that takes care of your automated cleanup. So we also worked on this in our lab, and only thing is that cartridges are, you have to see that what kind of matrix you want to clean, and then it works very well. GCMS is a technique which we extensively work in the lab. Actually, this can enhance the laboratory throughput. It's a very simple approach. You have normally one column in your GC oven. Here, basically, you are instead of a regular capillary column, if you use a megabore column and connect with a restriction column, this is the injector port. So there is a restriction column. It does not require any phase, of course. It can be just an empty column. It need not have any stationary phase in it. So just a half meter column, and its diameter has to be low. So from 0.1 millimeter, when it goes to 0.53 millimeter, there is a volume expansion, and that does the wonder. Helium starts behaving like hydrogen. So you can understand that if helium becomes hydrogen, it becomes very light, or nitrogen becomes hydrogen, or sort of nitrogen does not become hydrogen, but actually its physical property becomes like that. So it becomes very light. So its movement becomes very fast. So whatever run time, normally we get 40 minutes, we can squeeze it to maybe 12 or 13 minutes. So this is the typical difference. Conventional GCMS, low pressure GCMS. This is the data from my lab. My own students generated this data. And here is the difference. So if on the left hand side, you see that conventional GC signal, lot of ambiguity that so like compounds like metconazole, amitraz, dimetone, S-methyl sulfone. Same thing when you are doing a low pressure GC, signal becomes a very sizable one because it gets squeezed in the baseline. So RT repeatability is also better, and basically width of the peak is reduced. So we publish this method, and I can very easily tell that it's very easy to establish in any laboratory. Whatever existing GCMS you have, you can try this technique. You only need to purchase one this type of union. You can see that these two columns are just connected with an union, and one megabore column is required. Rest nothing. Okay, so another thing I would like to mention, that feed is becoming very important, because feed is something which is a source of residue to animal body, and many times it happens that we don't analyze feed, which could be the source of residues. So if you look at EU regulation, not many MRLs are there. Now in India, feed is primarily governed by BIS. FSSAI is yet to set any maximum limit for feed. So at this point, everything is set at 0.01. So this is the method. I had a colleague from Indian Grassland and Fodder Research Institute in Jhansi who visited me for an attachment training. So we developed this method. It's a very simple strategy by which we not only analyze pesticides, we also combine some of the regularly used veterinary drugs. And this method published last year, 2020, development and validation of multidisciplinary method for pesticides and selected veterinary drugs in animal feed, and both LCMSMS as well as GCMSMS. So a quick review of method validation. You have possibility that you can have standard method, you can have non-standard or lab developed method. So there are certain parameters which you have to do before declaring that the method is fit for purpose. So you have to come out with LOQs. Normally expectation is always at least 10 parts per billion. 0.01 milligram per kg is the target for all pesticide residue analysis, and maybe any modern instrumentation provides a lower LOQ for most cases. Analytical quality control and method validation guideline of DG Sante of European Commission. It is the most talked about document. We should study it. So this is my last slide. What are the expectations from a regulatory analytical method? It should be capable of identifying and quantifying all the target compounds at regulatory tolerance limit with sufficient precision and accuracy. In general, the method should have sufficiently low LOQ to comply with the regulatory requirements. So here actually AOSC International and CEN is the European Commission. For example, if you look at this particular guideline, CEN, this 16059 document, they say that if the maximum limit or MRL is more than 100 ppb or at 100 ppb, so what happens? Your LOQ should be 1/5 of that ml. That is the expected LOQ. If the maximum limit is less than or equal to 100 ppb, LOQ should be 2/5 of the ml. So these are the thought process you should have in mind while establishing a method and validating a method. So if you achieve this type of LOQ, probably your method will be fit for purpose. So method should satisfy all the analytical quality control criteria. Thanks a lot for the attention. I apologize that I took a lot of time, but I also assured that if you need any of these publications, any of the methods, please feel free to contact. I'll be happy to share. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kamsi. It was an excellent presentation, I tell you. And I still feel that I should keep on, should continue to listen to you, but because of the time constraint.
Thank you very much, sir.
Interrupt. It was very good. So I will not review or anything. Straight away we should go ahead, I think, for the lecture, next lecture of Dr. Datta. Dr. Vaskar, can you introduce please him?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Banerjee, for a very elaborate and nice presentation, because you are, everyone knows that you are a master. I can say that one of the authority in this particular field. It was nice to listen to you, sir. Thank you very much. And now I invite the next speaker, Dr. Ajit Ganesh Datta. You can say it is after the elaborate presentation by followed by Dr. Banerjee. It is the industry person who will be delivering his presentation now, who has been associated with multiples of companies. Recently, he had retired from Shamaja Analytical India Private Limited. Before that, he was working with Thermoelectron, then Associate Cement. So he has a lot of practical experiences from this particular analytical work in the pesticide analysis, residue analysis. But apart from this, is his practical experiences. He has mastered, done his master's from, as well as doctorate from the Mumbai University, and he is the recipient of prestigious Atomic Energy Fellowship in the year 1971, and worked for his doctorate degree from Baba Atomic Research Center and renowned institute in India. At present also, although he is basically a person from industry, he is a visiting faculty at various colleges in Mumbai, and also guided multiples of PhD students. Roughly around 8 students he has guided for the PhD. So it is not a person only from the industry, but also a person, you can say, a blend of academia and industry interface. So I invite Dr. Ajit Datta to present his views. Dr. Datta, please.
Thank you so much, sir. So good afternoon to all, especially the chairman and the co-chairman and all the dignitaries from the university as well as from the college, and Dr. Zende. I thank you for inviting me for this particular seminar, and I would like to share my presentation now, and we will, just let me know if it is available for you. Yeah. Are you able to see my presentation? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is coming. It is coming, sir. Sharing.
Yeah. So, yeah, so fine. So I will share it on a full screen. Okay, so that everybody will be able to see it properly. Okay, so I'm going to talk on gas chromatography mass spectrometry. That is the topic which is allotted to me. So I'm analytical chemist. I am not from the field of the pesticide residue analysis in particular. Being analytical chemist, probably I may have to deal with all different kind of samples, not only the food, but also the pharmaceuticals, minerals, metals, everything. Okay, so as a chemist, probably I have done a lot of different kind of work, but being chemist, I am more familiar with the instrumentation part, and I was lucky to have opportunities to handle many of these instruments which we're talking about. Okay, so with this introduction, let me begin my talk. Okay, so I will start with these. First thing is sources of pesticides in animal originated food. So especially the animals use on farm, so they eat whatever things are available around in the farm, and many times the pest control is done on those, so they eat those kind of cattle, eat those things. Then post harvest use, that's the maximum thing which they eat. So after the harvesting is done, whatever is remaining, it is generally fed to the animals, and if those are probably the pest control kind of things, they will definitely get pesticides. Pesticides and or their metabolites that persist in environment and that can get into the animal through the grass. Places where the animals stay are sprayed by pesticides to prevent infections. So the kind of farming where it is done, whether it is the poultry farm or whether it is the cattle farm, wherever they are there, generally the pest control is done to prevent the infection to the animals. And then just now doctor also mentioned about the animal feed. Okay, so the feed also needs to be tested for pesticides, and those are the things which are sources of pesticides in animal originated food. So all can lead to bioaccumulation of pesticides in food products of animal origin as meat, fish, fat, eggs, and milk. Okay, so that is how the contamination can happen. Generally, the pesticides can be classified in a broad way, and these are the few things which are mostly dealt with in animal originated food. So chlorinated pesticides are many of them are persistent organic pollutants, and they are highly stable, low volatile, lipophilic, and they can biocontaminated, and many of them could be having genotoxicity also, but then they are still being used. Then pyrethroid pesticides, they are comparatively safer, they have low toxicity, they degrade fast, but their metabolism or metabolites can tend to bioaccumulate in the animals, especially in the lipids, and then they can contaminate it through foodstuffs. OPP, organophosphorus pesticides, they are less persistent than organochlorinated pesticides, and they provide quite safe and cost-effective control of wide range of waste. They can be absorbed by inhalation, ingestion, and dermal absorption, and then they can have contamination in the food chain. Then we have triazines, and they are generally used as herbicides, and they are persistent, so they are not so good. Other pesticides as carbamates, benzoyl ureas, then phenolphthaleins, amines, fluorides, all these are also sometimes need to be analyzed in animal origin food. Of course, most usually what is analyzed are OCPs, OPPs, pyrethroids, carbamates, and triazines. These are more common kind of pesticides. So as I said, I am basically analytical chemist, and analytical chemist deals with the chemical analysis at the best possible way, and he is generally the person who is using an equipment for any kind of analysis. So GCMS as analytical tool for multiple residue monitoring. Okay, so that's the way we are looking at it and why we require GCMS. I would like to always talk about my friend who always accompanies me, and he's nothing but a good analytical chemist, and he plays with some important terminologies in analytical chemistry, and those are sensitivity, selectivity, separation, structure, and speed. These are 5 important S in analytical chemistry. And all of us who are doing chemical analysis, whether it is from the veterinary science or whether it is from the pharmaceutical science, all of us talk about these 5 S. We always talk about what kind of a sensitivity which can be achieved, whether whatever method we have or whatever instrument we have, whether it is going to selectively measure my analyte. Can I do a good separation of my analyte from the matrix or from the other analytes? Suppose it is a mixture of components which I need to measure, whether I can do the good separation of them. Then I need to find out the structure. I would like to know what it is, then how much it is. So structure is very important. And all this has to be done with high speed, because looking at the particular field of your interest, we are talking about multiple components. We are talking about multiple samples to be analyzed. And unless and until your method is not very fast, you will be spending a lot of time in getting just one analysis done. So if one wants to play with this 5S, one has to also do some kind of a separation. And what needs to be suppressed, I put it below the feet of this particular juggler. You can call him a juggler because he's standing on a platform, gyratory motion. Analytical chemist job is that difficult. Okay, so he has to play with this 5S by reducing what we call a sampling error. And just now we heard Dr. Banerjee talking about this sampling. Okay, so how to sampling error, there are 2 aspects in this. Whether you have chosen the correct sample, whether your sample represents the bulk or not, that is one part. And then second part, which Dr. Banerjee focused on, is how you prepare your sample. And if you have less error there, you have achieved whatever is required. Okay, because instrument only does the analysis of what sample you put in, but how you prepare that sample, whether your sample really represents a lot or not, that is very, very critical. And one has to spend a lot of time on this part of the analysis. Then there is a background which can come because of the matrix which is present along with the sample. In spite of a lot of care which you are taking in removing the matrix, there would be some amount of it still present, and that can give you some kind of a background. That can also give you some kind of a noise. And when we talk about sensitivity of any analytical instrument, we always talk about signal to noise ratio. And then we understand the importance of the noise. If you want to have a good signal to noise ratio, noise has to be low. So how you separate your noise is very, very important in analytical chemistry. And the tools which we have today, like GCMS or LCMS or ICPMS, they take care of many of these aspects. They try to reduce the background because of the higher selectivity. They try to reduce the noise level, and that gives us a very high signal to noise ratio. So the definition of GC to MS really helps us a lot. Well, various food matrices and hazards which are there. So biological contamination, adulteration, heavy toxic metals, chemicals, pesticide residue, veterinary drugs, environmental contamination. So all these are playing important roles. As far as the food which we are consuming, we have to always worry about these kind of hazards. What challenges? Some of the challenges were referred by Dr. Sample variability, different compound characteristics, number of samples which we are going to get, number of analytes to be monitored, because we were talking about some of the food regulations where people are talking about more than 600 pesticides to be analyzed in one single sample. So the regulations are getting tougher and tougher, and you have a number of analytes to be monitored are going to be increasing. Low levels of to be measured. Generally, we talk about 10 ppb or less in most of the cases. And what we require is fast analysis, fast response. So these are all challenges, and the analytical chemist today is facing all these challenges and trying to overcome all these challenges and come out of that. So I'm going to talk about only one technique which is able to meet some of these challenges, and that is GCMS. I will skip some of the slides, or I will run through some of the slides because Banerjee has covered most of the methods like Quacher's method. Of course, I'm not going to talk about the old conventional methods. Okay, so I will. Okay, so food analysis could be classified into 3 critical steps: sample pre-treatment, sample preparation, and sample analysis by instrument. So we have spent some time just now before my lecture on some of these aspects. Okay, so sample pre-treatment includes dilution, extraction, solvent exchange into instrument compatible solvents, because whatever solvent which was used earlier may not be compatible, especially when we talk about LCMS. We require a compatible solvent like acetonitrile also. Then pH adjustment, if required, we have to do some kind of sample SP. So again, I'm not going to get into this entire chart. I can share some of these presentations, and if you'd like to have it, I will share it with Dr. Chendeser, and he will be able to pass it on to you. Okay, so SP for removal of fats and oils and lipids, etc. So what kind of sorbents are used? Normal phase sorbents are usually selected, like silica, alumina. Okay, the sample will need to be diluted with solvent compatible normal phase solvent like hexane ethyl acetate, and we talked about some of these solvents just now. Which method was not, I mean, it is the most modern method now. Everybody uses a method for sample preparation, and that is mostly known to you. So again, I will skip it, and Dr. Banerjee has covered some of these aspects quite well. Even modification in Quacher's method. Cleanup, he talked about DSP also, and what kind of sorbents which are required for removing sugars and fats. We talk about being used, graphite carbon black being used to remove pigments and sterols, etc. So C18 is the normal phase which is used for lipids and fats also. Yeah, so cleanup by DSP, again, the same thing which we have talked about. So I'm not going to again talk much about that because I want to spend more time on the instrumentation part. So conventional versus Quachers, again, we talked about it. So what is the advantage Quachers gives? I will just look into this. Time is 4 times faster. Solvent consume is 6 to 9 times less. Safer, cheaper, and greener. So green chemistry, no much of a solvent, so good. And it is ready to use. Okay, so these are some of the advantages of Quachers. Okay, sorry. So that is why Quachers is preferred as a method. Okay, so fine. So we get into the evolution of techniques, and we have evolution of chromatography in way back in 1903, and then it developed further. So we have now mass spectrometry taking care of a lot of GC and LC detectors. So mass spectrometer has become a very viable detector for GC as well as in case of LC. Okay, so why we require a mass spectrometer as a detector? So generally, when we talk about chromatography, it gives you only one dimension, that is retention time. And on the basis of retention time of the standard and retention time of your sample, you try to make a statement that this could be my compound or this may be my compound. Okay, so if retention time matches, you make a statement like that, but it is not a confident statement. Mass spectrometry gives you additional information of a molecular weight that we call as second dimension, and that gives you more confidence that if molecular weight and retention time matches, it is the one I'm looking for. And then it gives you third dimension, which is called as fragments of that molecule. And if the fragments also match, molecular weight matches, and retention time matches, you have more confidence in saying that this could be or this is my compound. And that is why we require to have a GCMS for better understanding of the both analysis as well as the confirmation of compound. Yes, your GC, I'm not getting into what is GC, that this is a view of a GC, so I always would like to draw cartoons, so yeah, fine. Yes, so I will get into the sensitivity range of various detectors in GC, and you can see MS in a SIM mode gives you better MS gives you higher sensitivity than all other detectors. One great advantage of MS is that it is a universal detector, like TCD, which is said to be a detector which can be applied for any kind of analysis. MS is also capable of doing any kind of analysis, right from gases to the molecular weights up to about 1,000 molecular weights, because we are talking about GC. So it can do analysis of every component, irrespective of whether it is inorganic gas or whether it is organic compound, whether it is a chlorinated compound or whether it is a nitrogen phosphorus containing compound, because many of the GC detectors are very specific for specific class of compound. MS is not like that. MS can determine chlorinated compounds, it can determine nitrogen containing compounds and phosphorus containing compound with similar kind of sensitivity. So that's the advantage of MS. Why MS again? Complex matrix and more than 300 compounds can be measured in one single run. Retention time and retention index not sufficient or may not be required in this case. SIM facility gives specificity and sensitivity, so there are a lot of advantages. Response to almost all pesticides can be coupled to GC and LC both. Availability of different ionization techniques. So MS can give you all these options. So what is MS? When we have components of a mass spectrum, a sample inlet, which could be GC, the sample comes out, it gets ionized. Ionized vapor molecules or vaporized ions get into mass analyzer. Mass analyzer will separate those ions on the basis of molecular. They go to the detector and the signal is processed by the data system. So that is how the spectrometer works. A very high vacuum for the mass analyzer, so that the ions which are generated in a vapor form should be able to go through mass analyzer to the detector without any kind of a collision with any other gases. So you require high vacuum in that region, so that the transmission of ions generated at one place to the mass analyzer, they will be able to reach the detector very smoothly. Fine. So we get into the ionization, because GC, I assume that everybody knows what is gas chromatograph. So I'm not going to spend more time on that. And we directly get into the mass spectrometer. So there are two types of ionization. One is called as electron ionization, other is called as chemical ionization. And for volatile samples, we generally use that. And volatile samples are generally analyzed by GC. Then there are non-volatile samples, and for those we require LC. And for LC, we have different methods of ionization. And I understand that there is another lecture for you on LCMS. So the person there would definitely cover that. And then there is another way you can convert the non-volatiles into volatiles by the method of derivatization. And you can analyze some of those compounds by using the GC, by converting non-volatiles by derivatization. So you can increase the scope of GC for non-volatiles by way of derivatization. So ionization is the most important thing, and we have to understand what is ionization. Well, I used three punchlines to define three techniques: GC, LC, and MS. So if you ask GC what you can do, so it will tell you that if you can evaporate, I can separate. If you ask LC what you can do, it will tell you this is a line. LC can tell you that if you can dissolve, I can dissolve. And if you ask mass analyzer what it can do, it will tell you that if you can ionize, I can recognize. So if you know these three punchlines, you know three techniques very well. Fine. So let's go to the technique of electron ionization, which is a highly energetic process. So we use some 70 electron volts as an energy, which bombards onto the molecule, and molecule gets fragmented. So you get a lot of fragments. You may get a molecular ion, M+. That means one electron is lost because of the electron which is bombarding, and you get M+ radical. Sometimes you may not get M+ radical, because if the molecule is very fragile, you may not get M+ radical. That means you will miss molecular weight information. So EI may give you the molecular weight information, or it may not give you molecular weight information. But one thing is certain, that it will give you a lot of fragments. And these fragments help us in identification of a structure of a compound. And as we are using standard 70 electron volts as energy, every time what kind of fragments we get, they are exactly similar for the same compound. So you can generate a library, and that is why we have a EIMS library. So GCMS libraries are available, and you can find out the structure of a compound by using or taking the help of the library. Well, how electron ionization works. So you have got electron generated by passing a current through the filament, and electrons move to anode. Then from your GC inlet, your gas molecules are coming, they get ionized, and these ions are then transferred to the mass analyzer, which is beyond this region. So in the mass analyzer, these ions enter, and mass analyzer would separate the ions on the basis of mass to charge ratio. Well, if we have a simple molecule like ABC, and if it is bombarded with electron, you can get ABC plus, ABC excited, we are not interested. You get ABC plus 2 electrons, the electron which is getting bombarded and out, so you get ABC plus. So you get a positive ion. And then this can get fragmented further to give you AB plus, BC plus, AC plus, A plus, B plus, C plus. So a simple molecule like ABC, arbitrary molecule, it gives you so many fragments, and then these fragments can lead you to the structural information. Okay, so let us look at one of the structure. This is acetophenone. The structure is given here, and when you look at the mass spectra at 70 electron volts, you get this kind of a mass spectra. And anytime you do acetophenone, it will exactly give you the same spectra on the same instrument or any other instrument manufactured by anybody. Okay, so as far as 70 electron volts energy is concerned, acetophenone will always give you this kind of a mass spectra. So this is your ABC. This is A, B, and C. This is your ABC. This is C is lost, so this is AB plus. This is 77, this is your A plus. This is 43, which your BC plus. Okay, so like that, as we have seen the previous example, molecule gets fragmented in that way, and you get good information about the molecule, and that leads us to this structural information. So we know 120 to 105, there is a loss of 15. So methyl group is lost. Then there is a loss of 43 from here. So there is a 77. So A plus has got formed. Okay, so like that, you can find out the structure of a molecule very easily. And these kind of fragments are very, very useful. Then another method of ionization, chemical ionization, which is very useful because many times in EI mass spectra, you may not get a molecular weight information because molecule is fragile. It does not form molecular ion. And in that case, we use a soft ionization, which is called as chemical ionization, where we use some kind of a reagent gas, which is admitted to the ionization source. And we use generally ammonia or iobutane as reagent gases. So the technique is similar. What is done is we have now put methane gas, which gets ionized because of the electron bombardment. Then the molecules comes and they get ionized because of the interaction with methane gas, and they produce ions which get into the mass analyzer. So as the secondary kind of ionization takes place, it is a soft ionization, and in this case, you generally get a molecular ion. And this molecular ion, mostly what happens is you get a proton added to the molecule from the methane. So what happens? This reaction, I will quickly go through that because I know time is less. So you can see here CH5 plus gets formed, and this CH5 interacts with the molecule of my interest to give me MH plus and methane gas is. So this MH plus ion is measured, and that is why when you have a chemical ionization, the molecular weight is generally increased by 1 unit because of proton addition. So that is what happens. So I have given an example here. Amitriptyline and cyclopentane have been done with EI 70 electron volts. There is no molecular ion. 277 and 275 are not seen. But when I do it by CI, chemical ionization, I can see 278 instead of 277 because of proton added, and 276 because of proton added instead of 275. So that confirms, and very strong peaks, so you can't miss them. And that gives you molecular weight information, and that is what is needed many a times. So chemical ionization gives you molecular weight, increased selectivity for many compounds, selectivity affected by reagent gas. So if you use methane, ammonia, isobutane, you will get different selectivities. Well, I'm not getting into that more. And then you have a negative ion chemical ionization, which is very useful in pesticide residue analysis, especially organochlorinated pesticides, because of the chlorine being having higher electronegativity, it can capture the electron. What happens here? The reagent gas interacts with the electron of 70 electron volts. Because of the buffering action of reagent gas, the electron reduces their energy to 0.4 electron volts. Okay, so the energy of electron decreases from this to this level, and now electron with low energy can be captured by the molecule if it has got halogens. Okay, so chlorinated compounds will capture these electrons to become M negative, and these negative chemical ionization helps in identifying and quantifying the pesticides which are having the chlorine groups. So organochlorinated pesticides you can easily measure by negative ion chemical ionization. This is a different example, but then this is oxygen also has electron negativity. So the by trinitrotoluene, which can be measured in a matrix very clearly because of the chemical ionization. I'm not going into that. So negative ion chemical ionization gives molecular weight information, can be 100 times more sensitive. So like ECD is more sensitive in GCD, here also it is electron capture mass spectrometry, because here also electron is captured by the molecule. So you can call it as ECMS, electron capture mass spectrometer, and it gives you also a very high sensitivity. Well, these are the compounds which are classified amongst the pesticides which give you higher sensitivity in NCI, negative chemical ionization. So all these compounds give higher sensitivity in NCI. These give you higher sensitivity in EI, and these are the ones which are sensitive in both the regions, whether you use chemical ionization or EI, they give you adequate, good sensitivity in both of them. Okay. Yeah, so NCI is also very useful. Negative ion chemical ionization is also very useful in addition to positive ion chemical ionization as well as electron ionization. So there are three modes of ionization in Gcms: EI, then positive ion ionization, and negative ion chemical ionization. So these are the sensitivity comparison in EI and NCI for some of the compounds. Okay. So you can see 1 picogram can be given by EI, while NCI can go even much below 0.1 picogram level. Okay, while some of them are at the 10 picogram by EI, there you can definitely achieve something like 10 times better sensitivity by CI, NCI. Okay. Well, after ionization, let's get into the mass analyzer. And mass analyzers, we are not going to discuss all of these. We are going to talk about the quadrupole mass analyzer, which is used everywhere. Okay, so we always talk about single or triple, and triple quad is more preferred now in the residue analysis, while a single quad has become outdated as a technology for residue analysis. It is not outdated as a technology, but as far as residue analysis is concerned, people would prefer to have a GCMS than just a GCMS. Okay, so we'll talk about that. Well, quadrupole is a good mass analyzer, very compact, and it gives you unit mass resolution. And how it works, we apply a DC and RF field to these rods, and in such a way that we scan direct current and radio frequency voltages which are onto this DC voltage and RF voltages which are applied onto this. They are scanned, and they are scanned in such a way that at a particular DC RF voltage, one ion gets stabilized and go to the detector. At that DC RF voltage, all other ions go out of this quadrupole region and get into the vacuum system, or may get discharged onto the rod, because we apply positive and negative voltages to this, and because of that the ion can get charged. So at some other voltage, the ion which is shown by red color will go to the detector, but at that time the ion shown by green color will go out. So in a scanning mode, when you operate this quadrupole, when you scan DC-RF voltage, all the ions in a given mass range will be able to go to the detector one by one, and you will get a mass spectra of all the ions as you scan the DC-RF voltage. Okay, so this is one way you can apply you can use the quadrupole, which is called as a scanning mode of a quadrupole. There is one way you can apply it. Suppose I want to only analyze this ion of a particular mass. So I know that this compound is present in my matrix, and I would like to selectively measure only that. So when I want to do quantitative analysis, what I do is I fix DC-RF voltage so that this ion can go to the detector all the time, and all the ions, which could be matrix ions, which could be any other substance which is present in my sample, they will not get detected. Only that particular mass to charge ratio ion will go to the detector 100% of time, and I get highest sensitivity for that. So the quadrupole can be operated in both the modes. One is called scan mode, other is called as SIM mode, that is single ion monitoring mode. And in that mode, we generally use it for quantitative analysis. So earlier days, before say 2003 or so, whenever GCMS was used, it was used only as a GCMS and only in a SIM mode for quantitative analysis. So again, I'm not going into that. Okay. So common GCMS analysis procedure: parameter setting of GCMS and tuning of mass spectrometer so that mass spectrometer understands what is happening. Measurement of unknown samples, identification of unknown samples using a mass spectrum library, that is qualification. Then analyze the standard samples by retention time and mass spectrum, making a calibration curve, intensity measurement of unknown samples, determination of concentration, quantitative analysis, and generally, whenever you are doing quantitation, you are doing it in a SIM mode. This is one particular analysis which is done 86 pesticides using DB1 column by GCMS in SIM mode, and it has taken something like 50 minutes to analyze 86 samples by GCMS. Okay, so now when we get into MSMS, you will understand what advantages we get when we get into MSMS. Okay, so here we are only talking about 86 pesticides. If I use similar kind of a technology today, when I want to analyze 400 pesticides, probably I may have to do at least one sample analysis 3 or 4 different times, and then to get all the pesticides getting separated on different columns under different conditions, and we'll be able to probably measure all of them in a day or probably. Okay, so it would take such a long time to do analysis of 400 pesticides at a time. But now that doesn't happen because we have MSMS. So this is the GCMS. So we have the ionizer, we have mass analyzer, only one single mass analyzer and a detector, and we use SIM mode for quantitation. When we have a MSMS, we have changed. So inlet could be anything, GC, HPLC, capillary electrophoresis also can be used. Then we have inlet, ionizer, then mass analyzer 1, then we have something called as collision cell, then we have mass analyzer 2, and then we have a detector. And we don't use SIM mode, we use multiple reaction monitoring mode. Here we use single ion monitoring, here we use multiple reaction monitoring mode. And this has made the change. MRM has given us MRM. That is, multiple reaction monitoring has helped us in giving multiple residue monitoring. So MRM has given us MRM. So what is this collision cell about? Okay, so I'm not sure. You please give me 10 minutes warning if I have to stop somewhere. Okay, so if you give me 10 minutes warning, the chairman or co-chairman, I know how fast I have to rush through rest of my slides. Okay, so please give me that kind of a warning. Yeah, so collision-induced dissociation cell is nothing but one more quadrupole. So you have one quadrupole here, you have another quadrupole on this side, and in between there is a collision-induced dissociation cell. What this collision-induced dissociation cell does, it selects the ion from the first quadrupole, which operates in SIM mode. So I'm selecting one ion, which I want to fragment further. Now this ion comes, gets fragmented here. How it gets fragmented? As the ion comes, I give it a collision energy. I apply the RF voltage in such a way that this ion starts vibrating in this field. From other side, I am putting a leak of argon gas, which will collide with this ion and fragment it. So collision has induced the dissociation of this ion to give me what we call as fragment or product ions of this, which go to the third quadrupole. Third quadrupole, I can operate in scan or SIM mode again and can detect all the ions which are coming out and find out the structure of that molecule, or I can use one ion or two ions out of this in a SIM mode for a better quantitation. Okay, so let us try to see how it helps. So collision-induced dissociation cell is like a CID cell. Okay, so you know CID. Okay, so what it does, if the culprit comes inside, it is given a punches, so it reveals out the information about itself, and you get the information as the CID cell behaves as a CID cell. Okay, so that's a joke. So let us not worry about that. And a role of collisions. Okay, so I'm not going in because I have less time available, I know. So let us look at the advantage of collision cell for quantitation. SRM or MRM. SRM is the word which is used for selected or single reaction monitoring, and MRM is used for multiple reaction monitoring. Let us understand these terms. First, let us know what is SRM. So there is one ion of my interest which I want to monitor, and this is 269, which is coming, and it is giving me two fragments, 181 and 88. Now suppose I have a complex matrix, and in the complex matrix there is another ion with exactly 269 mass, but it is an interfering ion which has a good concentration. Then it may also come along with this, but if I have a single quadrupole, both of them will go to the detector because I have no other way of separation. So both the masses 269 will be detected by the detector, and I will have a false positive kind of a result. Even if this ion is not there, I take this ion and may have a false positive, or I will have too much of a concentration of this compound because both of them are coming at the same time and get it. But then when I use a collision cell, this 269 fragments to give me different fragments, because this is a totally, its fragmentation pattern would be different. So it has given me 145 and 124. Now when I know that 269 is my standard, which gives me 181 as a fragment ion, I set my three quadrupoles in such a way that first quadrupole will only select 269. Collision cell will fragment whatever is coming inside, and my third quadrupole is set to monitor 181. So whenever 181 is coming, it will be monitored. Any other ion will not pass through this at all, because it has a different mass. So 146, even it is given by 269, which is interfering ion, this will not reach the detector because this is totally a different ion. Only 181 will be allowed to pass because my third quadrupole also is acting in a sim mode. And in that way, I get much better selectivity for 269 giving me 181. And I do multiple transitions within these three quadrupoles, I am doing what is MRM transitions. And the quadrupoles are so fast, they can do 555 MRM transitions. They can measure so many transitions in 1 second. Each quadrupole can have a scanning speed of 20,000 per second or 30,000 patterns per second. So their scanning speeds are very high. Their multiple reaction monitoring scanning speeds are very high. And because of that, we can scan many molecules together in one single run. And that is why MRM is able to really multiple residue monitoring. Okay, so this is a difference between single quark, and if the matrix is good, you can measure them very well. But when the matrix is very bad, we'll see what happens. I'm not going to, you can see the matrix is very bad. And when we have such a kind of a matrix, when we have the analysis to be done in the residue analysis, you can see you will not be able to find out which is the molecule of your interest. But when you have MSMS, what happens? Let us see. When we have MSMS like that, I'm not going into that. Okay, let us see. This is what happens. Okay, so yeah, so I'm selecting only one ion to go to the detector. These two ions are not allowed to go to the detector. Okay. So yeah, so same thing which I explained here. So now both the molecules with the same mass coming to the collision cell, they are getting fragmented, and the only one mass out of these fragments is able to go to the detector, which is fine analyte molecule, and interfering molecule doesn't get detected. Okay, so you can see here, this is the kind of a background. But when I do MRM transition, I get very clear signal to noise ratio, very high signal to noise ratio. So that is the advantage of MRM transitions compared to a single quad GCMS SIM mode operation. Okay. So again, I'm not going into details of each and every sample. Now, selection of precursor ion and the product ion is very important. So which ion you select for quadrupole 1, which ion you select for quadrupole 3 once the collision happens. Now, in case of GCMS, there is one drawback that you get a lot of fragments in the first instance itself because of high energy of electron ionization. And because of that, the molecule is very fragmented. So you cannot take a molecular ion as your precursor ion. So you have to select the ion, which is already a fragmented ion. And then you have to take a base peak or some other peak in the mass spectra, which could be your precursor ion. And then your product ion could be even smaller than that. And when the product ion becomes very small, you can have more interferences coming. And because of that, the selection of precursor ion is very important. That will give you a specificity. More the mass of precursor ion, more it is better. So the precursor ion selection is very important, as well as
Hello, sir, you are not audible. Hello, hello, Dada sir, you are not audible. Please check your network, please.
There is some problem in the network, it seems.
Yes, sir.
We can't hear.
Sir. I think it is from his side.
It is from his side only.
Yeah. I will call him, sir.
Just call him and find out. So he has not come so far.
परत log in करा sir, and then you can share the slides. Yeah. Okay. Sir, actually is a network problem. So joining and sharing his slides. Sir, he is logging once again and sharing his slides.
Okay.
Some network problem is there. किती slide share करू आपल्या?
He cannot come on the screen.
येतोय त्याचं बघूया.
He cannot come on the screen.
No. He will come, sir. He will come. He joining.
थोडासा नेटवर्कचा इश्यू दिसतोय त्यांचा.
ते झालं.
Meanwhile, if any participants have any queries, they can type in chat box so that we can raise the same queries to the corresponding speakers.
जस्ट स्लाइड शेअर करा.
ओके ओके
मग आवाज. आता आवाज येतोय सर तुमचा.
Yeah, okay. I'm joining now. Yeah, okay. And I've shared my presentation also now. So can you see now?
Okay.
Able to see my presentation also and my voice also. What is not clear? My
voice is there, but slides
Slides
is
are
clear,
not
sir.
Voice is clear.
Slides, your screen is not sharing here.
Not yet. Okay, I just shared
No,
it.
not yet.
Your screen is not sharing while the voice is clear.
Okay, 1 minute. Yeah. Now?
No. It is coming?
Yes. Now
Just come.
Now
Yeah.
it is seen? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I was talking about, precursor ion and the product ion selection. Precursor ion selection becomes difficult because we use very high energy electron ionization, which breaks the molecule, and we get precursor ion with very small masses. Now there is one more thing which is possible, which is instead of using 70 electron volts as a default energy, there is a provision now where we can start from 20 electron volts or 10 electron volts onwards. So you can reduce the electron ionization energy, and if you reduce the electron ionization energy, you will not get or you will get fragments which are having a higher molecular weight, and probably by using those you can get a better quantitation compared to, and then doing MRM after that, get better quantity. Another thing which I want to understand, why CI, positive ion chemical ionization CI, is not used for MRM, because you get a molecular ion in CI, and if you use that for MRM transition, you will be able to get a better sensitivity than just using EI MSMS for MRM. So the testing labs which are trying to develop methods, my suggestion is that whether we can try something like this so that the sensitivity can be increased. I know there could be some objections that there could be variation because of CI, but I do not agree with that, because ESI and APCI, which are in CMS, also have variations because of so many factors. So if that is permitted, why CI is not permitted in MSMS transitions, and why we only use EI? Okay, so it's a thought for further things. I would like to complete my presentation as such. So here we have those MRM transitions. So this is how you prepare a table, and then you have so many analysis done in the same very small time. Now this is in 22.5 minutes. We have done the analysis of 400 pesticides. Okay, and that is what is required today. If you have seen my previous slide where we have done some 86 pesticides in 50 minutes. Now here we are doing 400 pesticides in 22.5 minutes. Okay, so that is possible by using MRM transitions. Okay, so you really get a very high productivity because of that. Here again, the similar kind of 22.5 minutes, about 400 curves. You can here it is 439 pesticides in 20 minutes. Yeah, then there is okay, I do not want to get into that, but this is a time of flight mass analyzer, which is used for only one important thing, where Dr. Banerjee talked about unknown or metabolite analysis, when you do not know what compound could be. So this is the one which can give you high resolution. So time of flight mass analyzer is a high resolution mass analyzer, and we require high resolution mass analyzer for authentication or for finding out something which is unknown. And this is also having a great use in especially some of the testing labs. Dr. Banerjee in his lab has at least a couple of such high resolution machines which is using very regularly. So I'm not getting into the theory of resolution mass analyzer because of probably the time, and I lost some time unnecessarily for disconnect, and because of that I'm going to what advantage of this reflectron, etc. And GCMS with TOF has additional advantage that it can, as a TOF, single TOF, it can also reduce the time of analysis because of very fast scanning speeds of time of flight mass analyzers. So you can detect in like 10 minutes, you can analyze something like 150 to 200 compounds, even if they are co-eluted. Okay, so I'm going into the of this again. You can get a combination like that, but deconversion software, which will be able to analyze which are getting eluted between 17 to 20 seconds. So just in 2 seconds, you have 5 compounds eluted, but you can analyze them by using a in addition, that TOF MS gives you high resolution. So high resolution means what? You can get a molecular weight information up to 4th decimal level. And when you get a molecular weight information up to 4th decimal level, you can get elemental analysis of that molecule and lead to the proper structure of that molecule. And if you can do a fragmentation of such a molecule, the fragmented ions also you will be able to detect up to 4th decimal level, and that will be able to help you to achieve the structure of unknown much better way. Okay, so I could have had examples for this, but because of the time, I'm not going into that. Now I am just talking about advantages and limitations of GCMS, and probably I will stop after that. So what are the advantages of GCMS? And when I'm talking about advantages, I'm talking it also with respect to LCMS. Now, Capillary Gc, which is used in most of the applications, we use capillary column. And capillary column by itself gives us high sensitivity because signal to noise ratio given by capillary column peaks is much higher. So the efficiency is higher because you can separate number of compounds on a capillary column compared to on LC column. So GCs are definitely capillary column, definitely much better efficiency. Then GC as such is very simple, sensitive and selective method of analysis, GCMS. It gives you searchable spectra, so that's one advantage. LC doesn't have a library, so LCMS doesn't have, so that's a great advantage. You can get help from the library many times. And when you have a GCMS, you have less interferences because only volatiles are analyzed by GCMS. So all non-volatile impurities or matrix doesn't interfere at all. So that's way the GCMS has less interferences. The limitations, of course, mostly for volatile compounds, non-volatiles require derivatization, and that's a tricky. But then only volatiles can be analyzed by GCMS. So for non-volatiles, we have GCMS has one limitation. It maximum 2000 Dalton, 1000 molecular weight. Beyond that, it is generally not used. 90% of organic and biological samples are non-volatile. So out of all the organic molecules, only 10% of the organic molecules are volatile, and 90% of the organic molecules are volatile. And for that, you definitely require LCMS. And then one advantage of LCMS is that you can have detectors in series. GCMS, as many of the detectors are destructive detectors, you cannot have FID connected to MS, so you have to have a split. In case of LCMS, you can have a UV detector connected to MS or fluorescence detector connected to MS, so you can get response from both the detectors, and that helps a lot in many applications. So, okay, so these are the advantages and limitations as far as GCMS is concerned. And because of these limitations, we require to have LCMS-MS. So I hope I would like to stop here. I could have talked something more, but then fine. Thank you so much for giving me opportunity. Thank you all the participants for bearing and having your delayed lunch. And please take care of yourself in these days and attend these kind of seminars and symposiums if you get a chance to increase your knowledge in various fields. So thank you so much again.
So thank you very much, Dr. Datar. It's very elaborative Actually, it is a short-term course in instrumentation. We appreciate the efforts taken by the author actually, and because of the time constraints, it is nearly 2 o'clock. What do you feel, Dr. Vaskar? If you go for questions, then people will get.
Definitely, sir. It already 1 hour is more.
So anyway, then we will conclude. And if you have any participants have any questions directly, they can go to the guest. So with this review was really, both the lectures are excellent. They were excellent. Presentations were excellent, and really we enjoyed. Only the time limitation was the problem. Otherwise, we would have enjoyed the question and session also. Dr. Bhaskar, would you like to add something? You can go ahead and then conclude.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Yeah, it was very nice to interact with Dr. Kaushik Banerjee as well as Dr. Ajit Datar. Only request to Dr. Ajit Datar, could you please put on your video for some time so that at least participants can see that can see you virtually at least.
Yeah. Check. Let me check if I can do that. I do not know where it is. Yeah, I will come.
You can stop sharing the slides.
Okay. Where my slides have gone. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I will stop sharing my slides first of all. Okay. So I will close this from here. Okay. And I will have my video join meeting.
Yes.
Where is my video? Okay. Video is on now. Yeah. Can you see me now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It was nice to see you
okay.
again.
So I will just
At least
like
virtually, physically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Delighted to see you physically.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. Thank you.
It was a wonderful session. Both the presentations were very elaborate to the point, and they have given the deep insights about the residue analysis as far as the pesticide residue is concerned. Indeed, it was a technical matter was discussed by both the sessions. Dr. Banerjee has covered very nicely the different techniques which are being used for analysis of the meat or input, animal inputs with reference to the extraction, quantification, as well as the detection. And Dr. Datar has very correctly has given insights about the technicalities which usually we scientists we do not go inside. We are more related to the extraction, then the material selection and everything. But now the doctor has clarified much of the points which are related to the technicalities of the instrumentation part. Thank you very much for the speakers for this. Again, it was very indeed an honor to all of us to have our guide, our philosopher, our mentor to be associated with us. It is always a privilege to be students of Sherikar sir, to have to interact with you, sir, and also to the organizing team from NAHEP, MVC Mumbai, to interact with all. Over to Dr. Jenge now. I take this from our from the and giving us the opportunity to interact, to act as a co-chairman with this particular session on the first day. Over to you, Dr. Jenge.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. My guide, Dr. the guiding Dr. Vaskar, Professor, smoothly programs technical issue. Today's speakers, Dr. Banerjee, scientist, has great the chemical residue analysis. I can give examples and very easily complex subject is explained in easily. I thank both and finally, I also think my just and Dean and Dairy Technology and Dr. Ayers at of Extension. So this training program today's day we have covered both the speakers and tomorrow morning Sunday 11 o'clock we'll be covering two another topics which will be covered by the export inspection experts from the Chennai and Kochi. So I declare this today's training program is over. Thank you one and all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.